Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast for my Chicago Bears pregame versus the 49ers as they come to town to Soldier Field to play the Chicago Bears. I hope you guys all enjoyed listening and watching to TSS Fantasy as we start this new Sunday lineup for the Bellyup Sports Podcast Network. Every single Sunday will be Bellyup pregame. You're going to get 5 shows leading up to the noon kickoff for the NFL. You can also watch this live every Sunday from 8 a.m. Eastern Time until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find the show live on each of the show's YouTube page, the Bellyup Sports Facebook page, and the Bellyup Football Twitter page. You can also find all the audio versions wherever you listen to your podcasts on Apple, Spotify, wherever. It's going to be a new Sunday thing. My show is going to be the Chicago Bears preview game. Before I dive into that, make sure you go check out the Bellyup Sports Podcast Network Facebook page, their Twitter page. Go check out each of the show's lineups and their personal YouTube page and all their audio. Make sure you please subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. Follow it on Apple or Spotify. Leave a review, 5-star review, all that stuff. Be a friend, tell a friend. Go check out the Bellyup Sports Podcast Network at bellyupsports.com to get all that content and subscribe to that YouTube channel and everything as well. Real quick, betting season's in full swing. The Bellyup Sports Podcast Network is working with MyBookie. If you go to mybookie.ag, you can make same-game parlays for any single sport out there, in-game bets, money lines, anything like that. If you go and use the code BellyUpFantasy on your first deposit, it's going to double your first deposit. Also, winter is coming, or some of you, summer is still here. If you're looking for new sunglasses that are stylish, you need some Yeats sunglasses. If you go to yeatsofficial.com and use the code CSS, you get 10% off your first order. These are the most comfortable sunglasses in the game. They can keep sand off clear, water doesn't smudge it or anything like that. And if you're out there surfing or anything, it actually helps you see the shark quicker. So if you are out there and the shark, it's going to help you see it a lot quicker. You got a fat head like me, it's going to be able to fit there. So if you go to yeatsofficial.com, use the code CSS, you'll get 10% off your first order. A percentage of all profits go to community outreach programs. So let's go save the planet. Yeatsofficial.com, code CSS, get 10% off. Today, we're going to be previewing the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears defense is banged up. Matt Nagy's been tested positive with COVID. The Bears have a struggling offense. 49ers are coming in limping as well. Today I'm excited because I'm going to have on here to do this pregame with me, Zach Keilman. He's the host of the Gridiron Gallery podcast, as well as many other podcasts. He probably has 8 or 10 of them. He is also a fellow Chicago Bears fan, so this might be a Chicago Bears sadness preview that we do. He's also as a part of the Unhinged Sports Network that also works with the Bellyup Sports Podcast Network. So he's been a part of that. Is always there to help out with different podcasts. Does a great job with all the stuff he does. We're Bears fans, so he was gracious to come on and do the Chicago Bears preview with me. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to do the preview of Chicago Bears versus 49ers, previous game versus the Bucs. Stay tuned to the very end of the episode where I'm going to give you my NFL Week 8 picks. And bets. So without further ado, here is the Chicago Bears preview with my special guest, Zach Keilman. All right. I'm going to welcome in now Zach Keilman. See, I think I got it.
Hey.
He is the host of probably 8 podcasts, I think. I can't remember how many podcasts.
Too many.
He's a fellow podcaster from the Unhinge and Bellyup Sports. The main one I know is the Gridiron Gallery, and then you do fourth. Is it 4th and 4?
Yeah, 4th and 4 there.
4th and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's like 10 others I forgot that you do. Can't remember them all.
You overestimate, but it's still. I will say I am too busy. It seems at times like bi-weekly shows like this week. This week's hell for me because I have to do 3 different shows during this week to get edited and recorded, and yeah, it's fun, but it's hell still.
It's fun until you try to figure out when you're going to do it. How are you going to do it? Are you going to sleep? Then you have a job.
There you go. Yep. All these crucial pieces in life. Got to put them in place.
But you are also a fellow Bears fan. Unfortunately, I guess.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the best I can. Last few years, I'll say unfortunately, sans some fun times in 2018.
That was probably the worst thing that could happen for Bears fans, only because now our expectation is you got to do that all the time.
Right.
And now it's bad.
Yeah, not a fan. In that talk about back in 2018, me and my dad went to that 100-year anniversary celebration they did in Rosemont, and had a blast. Got basically gaslighted that we're going to be Super Bowl bound this year, listening to Ted Phillips and Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace sitting there. And 2019's been the status quo for now 2.5 seasons.
What, we went 12-4, then the doink happened.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, we have a guy that kind of understands offense. It reminded me of the 2006 Bears, to be honest with you. We had a quarterback that could just kind of make the throws when needed, control the game, and you had a defense that was good.
Yeah.
2012 or 18 was exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2019 comes along, and we're like, oh, we suck again. And Matt Nagy doesn't know what offense is anymore. Like, it was all fun. One of my friends had a good quote, and I'll screw it up. We hired him to be Andy Reid. We wanted the same results, but if you don't have the chef in the kitchen, you're not going to get the same thing. So without Andy Reid, we aren't going to get the same result. And we're seeing that now because you're a fellow Bears fan that's hurting. We're supposed to be okay, but the last game was rough against the Bucs.
My God. Dear God, that was horrible. I'm so glad I was in Boston and not able to watch the game on that day. I was just me tracking it was like gut punches going like, oh my God, we've reached this point. We have officially hit the time to hit the eject button moment, in my opinion.
I watched it, and I watched it till the very end for one reason. It's because I had a same game parlay, and I just needed Herbert to score a touchdown. I was like, he has to score a touchdown. We have to, we're running the football pretty well. I was like, he'll get down there. We'll throw it to him. He'll run the ball. So because of that, Matt Nagy owes me like $20 because of that. But that's the only reason why I watched the whole game. At halftime, I wanted to turn it off. We just looked terrible. So you being in Boston, it was fine for you to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
But you thought it was bad just getting the updates. Watching it was terrible. Because I did a pregame show on my own, and I was like, oh, the Bucs only get 80 yards rushing. I think it was 85 rushing yards a game.
Sure.
And the Bears, I think, only give up like 80, I think. So I was like, okay, we'll be fine in there. And the Bucs just gashed us right up the middle because we don't have Hicks. Hicks just impacted that.
And that's kind of the Bears' MO is like, the way I've described it is you either most of the time they're going to be the team that I would say 2 plays out of 3 you're going to get like as a 1 to 2 yard stuff almost all the time, but then it'll seem like it's a lapse in judgment, and then guys will just at least I would say 3 to 4 times break off like a upwards of a 10+ yard run a game, and then that kind of pads the stats. It just seemed like Leonard Fournette, Rondale Jones, from what I could tell and from what I watched after the fact, they just had their way at times. Not to mention even the secondary, didn't even matter if Jalen Johnson was covering Mike Evans. Mike Evans was schooling him any chance he was given.
And Tom Brady had more time than Avengers Endgame to throw the ball. He had all the time in the world to just sit there and throw it. And with the Bears, we're blitzing a lot more than we did last year.
Yeah.
But
yes, we are.
But because that was the thing, our corners and safeties aren't that bad. But they rely on the defensive line to get pressure. But when they're not getting pressure, they can't handle Mike Evans the whole time. They can't handle Goodwin on the other slot guy for a very while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would have scored more if they had Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski because we would not have been able to do anything. They remind me of Illinois' defense. I'm a big Illinois guy.
Yeah, that's something I figured out watching your stuff. No doubt about it.
That 9 overtime was just killing me. Because we can't pass the ball to save our lives, but I digress from Illinois. They're very similar in if Illinois' front 7 does their job, we can cover everything. And it was the Bears. When they don't do it, they can't.
Yeah.
And the Bears' defense is not healthy. Khalil Mack was out a lot of plays because he didn't practice a lot. Akeem Hicks was hurt. We're missing a couple linebackers. And so what I said this in 2019. I said, we've got to figure out the offense because our defense is aging.
Yes.
And you're starting to see it now.
You absolutely are. That's the sad part of this. Like watching the regression, like in talking the linebacking core, credit Ogletree wasn't supposed to be that one of those guys that was a key piece in the lineback in that center. He was just supposed to step in for Trevathan until he got healthy. But now we're having this argument like which one's more the one you want in, or can you get both in? But the problem is they both have shortcomings. Ogletree's not great at covering. He is more of a reactionary linebacker. He's better at, I get the quick read, I read say the play real quick, and then I react to wherever the ball's going. It's not great. He's not great with keeping up with tight ends or even, well, God, heaven forbid, receivers if you have to have him on there. Trevathan's better, but he's aging, and you can definitely tell. And even this goes back to when they had to make the decision between Nick Kwiatkowski and him. And I know Kwiatkowski was out for a good chunk of last year, but dude still is producing. And I still go back to that, and I wonder if they had. I know Trevathan has a legacy and is dominant in his career, but I was kind of the Kwiatkowski guy back then, and I was kind of going, it would be a tough and painful thing to let him go. But this is one of those pieces where it's like we wonder what if on that part of the unit, that's a youthful guy that would be in his prime right now. Trevathan, I think he's going past his prime at this time, starting to wonder how much you're going to get in return moving forward.
Well, a big question, and this might be me reaching, is the doctor at the Bears. He's taken a lot of heat because we draft that offensive lineman, and he has a hurt back.
Yep.
Like all the stuff that I remember when that happened, they called for him to be fired. Like a bunch of fans. They were like, get rid of the GM, get rid of the coach, get rid of the ownership, get rid of the doctors. It was like clean house. And so you have to wonder if whoever's evaluating these players is not doing the best. Like look at Floyd with the Rams, our defensive end. He would have been perfect right now.
Oh my God. You know how painful that is? You know how painful that is watching that man have success and getting a big payday like that? That one hurts. That hurts a lot.
Because when Khalil Mack's hurt, having him kind of step in to fill that void, like we're not evaluating players right now very well on offense or defense.
Right. It's becoming more like when you talk like in terms of like the personnel department and more the general manager's office, misses kind of start piling up at times. And especially later on in the tenure, it's seeming that way. Now, like we're talking injuries. Like with Jenkins in particular, coming out with a back injury right out of the gate. Damn, that's a shame. I still hope we get to see some action from him this year, and that his aggressive, the way that he was kind of this like mauler at Oklahoma State. I'm hoping that we get to see that. Larry Borum. Unfortunately, that was just more of an in-season injury, but like. Those are two key guys right now that Bears fans are kind of clamoring for and going, man, we could really use like this youthful talent that is needed for a line that either has terrible reserves or we're talking about Jason Peters, to me, looking like Orlando Pace back when Jerry Angelo picked him up, which was its own disaster in its own right. But those are vibes I get when I see Peters out on the field trying to play at the ripe age of late 30. I think, what is he, 40, 41 at this point, 39? I'm forgetting 39. What. Yeah, so, I mean, it breaks down. And then it broke my heart, some of the plays in Tampa this week with, like, not recognizing safety blitzes or trying to designate who's getting what. On a pass play, why are you double teaming on the inside and then leaving three people on the outer rim for a tackle to make a pick, But those are just pieces we're in. That's personnel and also coaching that are just deteriorating this entire package right now.
Well, that was what I said after I had a Bears recap on my own watching the game. The offensive line's not doing bad zone blocking wise. I mean, Herbert still got over 100 yards rushing. So as long as they stay away from gap schemes, they've been doing pretty well. Like wide zone and inside zone is where they make their money. Pass protecting has not been their strong suit because, like I said, when you're 39 and you're trying to take on a pass rush, that doesn't work. No. I'm going to be 31 and I don't think I could do it. Like I imagine being 39 and like we got rid of Jay Leno Jr. whatever, or not Jay Leno, but
Charles Leno. I know what you're talking about though.
Who couldn't stay off his knees to save his life every time the ball snapped, he's on his knees. We get rid of him for a 39-year-old that can't pass protect. And the thing with the Bears, they get 3rd and 10 and you have to have a pass play that takes a while, they're not going to do it. That offensive line couldn't, like you said, they couldn't. Their defense did well. I was watching it. They had twists and stunts and slants and brought this field safety blitzes and all this. The offensive line couldn't recognize it, but then Justin Fields has to recognize it as well. So the big topic was, can he not read a defense? And I said, yes and no. You kind of have to a little bit.
Right.
But it's hitting him quick.
Really, really quick.
Really quick.
Like you need to be like, and this is not to, maybe this isn't like a comparison saying like, we should have taken this, but like you need to be like a Mac Jones processing quick. And there's the whole argument on going, well, Bill Belichick's scheming it and, Josh McDaniels are scheming it this way, but that's kind of what you have to do is like, the line has to be better. First off, like you have to process it as a pro, or in terms they're asking like a Matt Nagy is basically saying, yeah, like how we have Aaron Rodgers in our division. Yeah, we want you to process information like him, like now, because my job's on the line and you're kind of the guy that's supposed to save it. So get to it. You were this highly touted prospect. It should be pretty second nature for you, right? You're not coming from Ohio State where they kind of, they expect you to get that first read with, good receivers and deep shots on the fly. That's the whole thing that's being missed on this. Like, guy still has to develop how to read routes better. And I know that there's that argument too, but the tape kind of shows Ohio State's been known to be that school. So that was one of my concerns going in anyway. Talent's there, but he's going to be learning on the fly because you threw him in this way. And here's where we're at.
Well, we could do a whole hour podcast on this because I did with my friends. When the draft happened, we said right away, first of all, me and my friend Nathan West, we already said it's not Mitch Trubisky's fault. Now, was he a great quarterback? No, he's not this guy that's going to.
Right.
But we even said, like, I was blaming Mitch at first, like going into last year. I was like, it's his fault. Then as I started watching it a little more and I started to come back to a reality, I said, oh, it's not his fault. It's the play calling's fault.
Sure.
And then going into the draft, I said, what do we need to focus on? Well, we don't have an offensive line. That would help. We have running backs.
Absolutely.
Then they got Andy Dalton. And the only thing I said about Andy Dalton was, well, he can complete a 5-yard pass. Okay. We get some offensive linemen. I think we'll be okay. So when we got Justin Fields, I freaked out. I said, we need offensive linemen. What are you doing? And then people want him to play right away, which was fine. I said, but this is what's going to happen when you play him. Because at Ohio State, you're playing Indiana, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Michigan State was terrible. Mm-hmm. You're playing, I'm an Illinois fan, but you're playing Illinois. You're playing whoever where he can run around and do whatever he wants.
Right.
At Ohio State last year, they had 2 running backs that averaged over 100 yards apiece a game. So it made it life easier. You could do RPOs. You could do all that stuff at Ohio State. Then you get to the NFL and it goes, no. You can't do all that anymore.
Exactly. It's almost like it's like Fields is said on his own in press conferences too, where it's like this isn't Ohio State anymore. This is there's more struggle. This isn't you're not getting all the best players out of the gate, which is something I brought up, which I've been thinking this whole time. It's like especially the receiver angle. Now Allen Robinson, that whole story. That got a little more complex this week because he's saying that they weren't giving him first team reps with Fields to develop chemistry anyway. So that's the whole excuse right now is I didn't get chemistry in the off season. So it's been hard for me to get on the same page. It's also a tag year. So people are throwing him under the bus, which is hilarious for all the people that were on the side of giving Robinson a contract last year. There's plenty of Bears professional media members that are going, yeah, no, he didn't deserve it anyway. After 2 years of arguing on his side that he deserves a contract, and I don't know. I don't know if the guy's being just phoning it in, but I think the argument of they were preparing for Andy Dalton and no one expected him to be working with that or something could go both of its own ways. Darnell Mooney being more of a lower rung kind of caliber player at that time, making sense why maybe he's working with Fields more. Fields is going to be thrown into a situation like you're talking where, yeah, you shouldn't be expecting Ohio State. Unless you're facing the Lions every week, who are a depleted roster that hit the reset button and basically cleaned house for the most part. which is what's hilarious is that Lions game. Everyone lost their minds. I'm going, it's the Detroit Lions, and they canned and traded most people and are trying to rebuild. What did you expect? He was going to get all day to do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah.
And even that game was close at times. And even that game, I had questions on certain plays. So the whole gaslighting of this thing is irked me because I want to like the guy and get him playing. But fans and media personnel nationally or in Chicago have been pissing me off all season because there's like no reasoning. It's like Fields' the solution, put him in, no questions asked. That's it. That's all you have to do. You know, what's Andy Dalton doing for me is it.
Yeah. Living over here is bad because I, all I hear from people is Justin Fields is going to be good, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, he will be. Probably, I hope so.
Right. We all hope so.
We all hope so. But when you don't have an offensive line that can protect you, number one. Number two, he's a rookie who can't read he can read a defense, but he can't read everything right now.
Correct.
And like, it's not Peyton Manning that can read in 2 seconds. The moment the ball snapped and somebody moves or someone blitzes, he goes, oh, I already know what this is. And like you said, Mac Jones can kind of do that because he was at Alabama where he was going against that exotic defense. When you're at Ohio State, they don't do that because you're playing lesser teams.
Right.
You're not playing LSU and Ole Miss and, all these teams and Georgia, like Mac Jones saw it at Georgia. And Justin Fields, one of the things they said was he holds on the ball too long because he's trying to figure out he wants to take the deep shot. And he's waiting because he can run. But I think defenses have figured out if we make Justin Fields run, we're going to win the game. If we can stop the run, he's not going to throw the ball, and he just starts moving, we're going to win.
That's fair. Although it's funny, I want to see more design runs. Like this is the same complaint with Matt Nagy with like Mitch Trubisky. It's like, why aren't we seeing like, a little more like outside sweep RPOs or things like that with a guy that can run? Especially Fields is even more so mobile than Trubisky was too. And even now, if we're talking traditional where he's rolling out of the pocket, like say he bails on the play, I'm still surprised I'm not seeing even more of just Fields going, all right, if they're going to, ruin my pocket, I'll just take off, and then maybe that's just the teams are keying in. You're getting a linebacker that's spying because with a guy that fast, you might as well have a spy almost every, try and at least gauge at every other player scenario where it's like, okay, like say like a Levante David last week, like, okay, you're going to be like the linebacker spy or something like that to like keep up, or like maybe, I don't know, Antoine Winfield comes up from the secondary. It's like, all right, you'll be like the spy here. You look like you're blitzing, but in reality, you're just kind of reading to see if the dude tries to bail, So that could play into it, but I've just been surprised. It seems like in the games too, maybe that plays into him trying to just deliver the kill shot. But there's a lot of times like, dude, you can run here. You can get like 6 or 7 yards and like throw the defense for a loop here because you're that mobile. And I haven't seen enough of that still yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just fine with it. I think defenses are fine with that if he just takes off because eventually they'll spy and do whatever. But you're right. The offense in the Tampa Bay game looked completely different. So my big question to some people was, did Matt Nagy put his nose back in it? Can he not handle? I said that the Bears keep winning with laser calling offense. He'll stay away. The moment they lose a game, he's going to come sliding back in saying, well, we lost because we didn't do X, Y, and Z. And he has to remind people that he's the head coach and all the plays have to go through him, which is arrogant in itself. Yeah. He's got to learn. He's got to learn to not talk. He just needs to stay at home. But you're right. We roll outs with Justin Fields. We're going to win. Zone reads, a little bit of power reads. We'll be fine. But it sounds like the exact same thing as we said with Mitch Trubisky. If you did all that with him, he was going to be fine.
Right.
Because we did that in 2018. And when we drafted Justin Fields, everybody jumped up and down. And I said, why are we jumped up and down? Look who's calling the plays.
That's the thing. Well, the whole fan base, this is also an asinine thing to me, like how 2020 ended going into the draft. So 2020 ends. We're all, I think for the most part, most of the fans in Chicago or that are fans outside Chicago that love the Bears, they got the torch and pitchforks up. They're ready to go. Like it's time to, clean house. You got maybe a little small sect here that are saying, no, it's only 3 years. You can't do it after 3. That's what low quality teams like the Jets and the Giants do. And so everyone else is like, no, torch and pitchforks. And then we get to that god awful end of season press conference where the McCaskey family, George in particular, says, oh yeah, I love the fight the guys had in a 5-game losing streak midseason, and they really showed their tenacity. And then even more torch and pitchforks were raised because the organization looked like it was completely lost and like spineless. Mm-hmm. And then the draft comes, Fields gets picked up, and everyone bails on the torch. They drop their pitchforks, and I'm standing here going, where's everybody going? What do you mean this fixes everything? Where have you all gone? The dudes that made this mess are still sitting in their chairs.
Yeah.
They just picked somebody up to distract you at this moment.
Yeah, and it worked until Cleveland Browns. Then all of a sudden they were kind of like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it kind of worked till Justin didn't start. When he was not the starter, ESPN and all of them said, why is he not starting? Why is he not starting? He's way better than Andy Dalton. He's way better. Look at what he did at Ohio State. And I said, yes, he's more athletic. There's upside, but this is what's going to happen because of Matt Nagy calling plays. If we had Sean McVay, it'd be a little different. When you got Matt Nagy calling plays, and what did he say the other day? Oh, we all get along in the locker room. After a loss, we're all getting along. And it's like, well, thank God you're friends.
That's awesome. Good for you, pal. Obviously, it's not translating well on the field is what I'm getting at right now.
Because they're literally limping in to play the 49ers. They're literally limping down the street to the Soldier Field, going underneath the bridge to the stadium, literally limping in there.
And while they're at it, they're yelling Packers suck because they're trying to still take some bit with them.
Well, because they're still mad about what Aaron Rodgers said. And yeah, I didn't like it either, but I was like, it's kind of
he ain't wrong.
He ain't wrong.
He's not wrong.
That's why you don't flip him off when he scores a touchdown. Don't give him a double finger. Like, what do you think's gonna happen?
We don't have a place. Like, yeah, we can be pissed off. Like, there's no place to get at him. The guy's basically handed us our lunch for the last decade plus. Like, all it was is you handed the keys from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and the same beatings continued in action.
Like,
it was like clockwork.
We've gotten close. He's allowed us to get close.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, nah, that's fine.
Even Favre did that, though, too. Like, they're just both teases, man. They just tease you like you're making progress.
Yeah, so the Bears are limping right now to play the 49ers, who are also limping. They're
also indeed limping. Mm-hmm.
And we're yelling the Packers suck and all this and that when the 49ers are coming in. And I still don't feel good about playing the 49ers, only because the defense now is really banged up than it was before.
Yeah.
The injury list is growing. What is it? Like, Team Hicks is still questionable.
Right. You got Hicks questionable. Obviously, Mac's going to be a detriment because the fact that Robert Quinn looks like he's finally living up to the money they gave him 2 years ago. You know, now you're saying, oh, well, now your buddy who's leading in sacks on the team is injured for this week, might be out 3. Now you're the solo act on a team that doesn't really have a number 2 behind either one of them that could follow up, I think. Maybe Gibson has been kind of showing flashes, but like I ain't holding out for miracles right now with that being the number 2. So that obviously hurts. And then we can look at the secondary, you know, Jalen Johnson holding his own, but you know, they're still going to target away from him. And I'm almost set up to be ready to expect a liability with Eddie Jackson missing tackles during the game once he has to do open field anything right now, it seems. Like, let me just throw a shoulder into it. Yeah, that wasn't really a good shoulder. Like, dude, wrap up. You know? I'm just expecting that.
They have like 3 offensive linemen out.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't used Jimmy Graham at all. He's been out, but they have not utilized him once, which blows my mind because when you get to the red zone, throw it to the 6'4", 6'5" guy that's going to go jump and get it.
Right? Or like, you know, let's start using Cole Kmet like a, you know, expected second round tight end. You know, let's not make this another Adam Shaheen where we like waste the pick and he just kind of stays there forever and then goes off to elsewhere. Let's utilize the talent like
And then-
normal people.
And then we only have Herbert is that going to be our starter again?
Mm-hmm.
Like we have Montgomery out still, Cohen's out.
But you see, I like Herbert showing that he's pretty capable. That's kind of a silver lining. The Bears might have like a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt scenario now. At least maybe not this year, but like next year they fully dive in, because Herbert, I liked him in training camp. I have been loving him even more so with these two performances. They got two bona fide guys they can go to that can catch and, churn yards. That's pretty bad. And Damian Williams was a 1-year sign. So like, even then, like next year, you don't need him. Herbert's right there. He was drafted and that's a cheap contract.
Herbert, Montgomery, whenever he's healthy, Cohen, when he's healthy, you can go find a different running back outside of those if you don't need them. But
God, I'd love Cohen to be back sooner rather than later. That was so sad to hear that he's not close to returning yet either.
No, but if we had Herbert, Montgomery, and Cohen, then like we said earlier, then you can get into the Baltimore Raven type offense. But Matt Nagy won't do it. He won't allow them to do it. But you could get into something like that. But they're both limping in with a running back and a half because Herbert's the only running back. You have Justin Fields, who is now, he even come out and said, he goes, he's never lost before. At Ohio State, I think at Ohio State he's lost two.
Well,
2 or 3 games.
I think they're both playoff games only too. Like I don't think he lost in the regular season at Ohio State that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think it was to Clemson and then to Alabama.
Yep, because Clemson he lost in the semifinals the 2 years before, which then Clemson lost against LSU, and then they beat down Clemson in a revenge game, but then they got their ass handed to them by Mac Jones in Alabama. Or really what I call an NFL roster walking around as a college football team.
Yeah, because you have almost the whole offensive line, the quarterback, my receivers go to the NFL, some of the defensive line go to the NFL. Oh, okay. That's
fine. That's fine.
They could beat Jacksonville Jaguars. They could have walked out there and beat them.
They probably could.
Probably.
Probably could.
But we're limping. Matt Nagy has COVID. And I don't think we recorded that. We don't want anything to happen to him because
no,
I've had COVID. It's not fun. Hopefully he just gets flu symptoms and he sits there. But just stay home. Don't try to come back too soon. Matt Nagy, you could stay home. It's good. They'll be fine.
Right. I share the same words I share for like Browns fans that are looking at Baker Mayfield now as he's trying to be like tough with that totally separated labrum on his shoulder, being like, hey, it's cool to get healthy, bud. You don't have to rush back. Like, sit on the couch, watch some tube, maybe do like a little exercise, but like, how about you like take a chill pill? Like, we don't need you to rush back that fast,
Well, he was doing fine though. Like they were doing well. I don't understand why, but
yeah,
I would. Well, I don't know if I'd take him, but we take their play caller. We take their head coach over.
Oh, I mean, yeah. If you give me Kevin Stefanski any day, I'll do that.
Bring him on over. But yeah, we're limp. Both teams are limping in. Looks like the 49ers have a quarterback problem because do you play Trey Lance? Do you just keep going with Jimmy G? It looks like they're staying with Jimmy G this week.
Yeah, it does appear that way.
I don't think Jimmy G's happy being there. He can't stay healthy. Trey Lance is in the same thing as Justin Fields. This game is moving really fast for him, and you have to read that. Shanahan's offense is kind of complicated.
True.
He throws a lot at you. So I predict a low-scoring game on Sunday because I don't know who's going to score what. Or it could be a high-scoring game because both defenses are kind of beat up.
Yeah, I think it comes down to whoever runs better because I have no faith in either one of these passing offenses at this moment. That's the honest opinion. Like, who's going to have a better day, Elijah Mitchell or Khalil Herbert? That's what I'm looking at right now. And maybe the other X factor is who gets maybe one or two better, passes, which at the moment, if I'm basing it on line and maybe production, I'm kind of leaning Jimmy Garoppolo because Justin Fields is in a situation that doesn't make me say wow, or make me say that he's going to take a step forward at this moment. Even with the San Francisco 49ers keeping to the status quo in the Shanahan era of, wow, all these injuries keep happening and we don't know why. the NFC's version of like recent years past Anthony Lynn Chargers teams, where it's like, oh, everything was going great until it all of a sudden wasn't.
It was good until it wasn't, and then
right.
then it came down hard. But like, I've realized people love stats, and I hate stats because they base everything off of them, and I don't.
Right. The stats don't mean everything, but it's the baseline for people to give arguments and to discuss.
Like the Bears are only averaging 14.4 points a game. And
wow,
we're giving up 23 points a game, which to me is not that bad. If you only give up 23, you're in a spot to win.
Now, in modern day NFL, that's not bad. I mean, no. in pass heavy NFL, that's not bad at all.
But like then the 49ers, they're averaging 22.5 points and they're giving up 24. They're averaging they're getting 363 yards a game. We're only doing 286.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. So this literally could be like a toilet bowl game. They're 2-4 and we're 3-4. Like this is, which is sad. They're 2 years away removed from the Super Bowl.
That's what's disappointing to me out of this. That was a team that was up by 10 2 years ago in a Super Bowl that was still winnable, if you ask me. And here we are now. You're going to be squabbling with a team that also has been rudderless, it feels like, for 3 years since they missed a field goal, doinking it twice off the crossbars.
Yeah, it like broke the team when the 49ers like Kansas City come back. That broke them.
Yep,
we did the doink, and it just broke everything.
Now
we got to deal with Matt Nagy and all of his play sheets glued to his wall in his draft room, like all that. That's what we've come down to. Is
what's up with that anyway?
And then the BU over it, like. One of our football coaches had that on his call sheet, and I ripped it up. I said, take that off right now because we don't need that.
You did not. Did you really?
I started to rip at it. I was like, you got to get this. Take it off.
It is a cursed symbol. I know where this is going.
I know he had that. I was like, now I know how this game's going to go tonight because this is on your sheet. It was like week 5, and I was like, has that been on there this whole time? Yeah, and I was like, that explains everything. Like, this is what happened.
No way.
But the Bears, without Matt Nagy, I think this might be a audition look of like, what's it going to be like if we don't have Matt Nagy? Maybe. Not saying whoever is going to be the interim coach for that game is the new head coach. But it was just going to be laser and that offensive staff. I think it's going to be, hey, what can we do without Matt Nagy? What's it going to look like? They're probably not thinking that way at all, but I'm going to think that way. And the Bears just going to have to run the ball over and over and over again. And on defense, we're just going to have to blitz up the middle every time because we're not going to be able to do anything. No defensive line. Our offensive line can't pass protect, but this might be the week to pass the ball.
It could be. I mean, there is that case. It's just, who's going to get this? This has been the question right now: is who's getting the separation? Mooney had been that guy a few times earlier on in the year, but lately it's been we're lucky if we get guys that actually, are able to get a route and create separation or get time to find those open people, or people are being schemed to run deep routes on plays where sometimes maybe a check down route would be kind of nice. Some other theme that keeps popping its head up that I'm like, why is this normal? Where's the check downs? Where are these shorter routes to help with like intermediate yardage gains, not going for kill shots all the time too.
Well, like where's that and where's the screens? Because they're doing these exotic blitzes. They're coming after us. Why can't we do a screen?
I'm up for a good running back screen. It's funny. Fun thing with me here. I'm actually not a fan of receiver screens, but that's only because you have to have receivers that are good blockers and that you can trust to do that. And then also the play has to be perfectly timed to get it to read those blocks. So like, to me, there's a lot of stuff. It's not like, say, where like a fade route, it has a low, where I'm like pissed off at that because it has a low percentage and like you have to have a receiver that can jump up ahead and the ball has to be perfectly placed. But like it borderlines that to me where I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has to go right. So you have to be a good team with like good mechanics and also good execution. The Bears aren't that team. So that's why I'm like, stay away from that. Do receiver screens where the linemen can get out and they can run free and frolic in the fields and let Khalil Herbert read off those blocks at the same time.
Yeah, we can't do key screens. We can do jailbreak tunnel screens or running back screens.
Yep.
Everything else needs to not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just never again.
And stay away. I'm done seeing tight end shovel passes. Like that was cool like in 2018 for like a minute. We don't need those anymore. We stay away from that right now too.
Oh, and everybody's doing the throwback tight end screens. I'm sure we're gonna see that.
Yeah.
That's the new thing. But the Bears have to go back to running the ball, using tight ends because that's what they're there for. They will help.
Absolutely.
Six-man pass protections, move the pocket, and just have Justin Fields throw short passes. And then go do the Sean Payton rule. 2 times a quarter, throw a deep shot. Only because it softens up those safeties. That Sean Payton's rule is 8 times a game you got to throw the ball deep.
I think that's a smart idea. Fields has the cannon to do it.
He does have the cannon, and it just got to be a turn and throw. Just turn and throw it. That's the only way the Bears are going to compete. Defense, I have no idea what's going to look like. You don't have Mac. Even if Akeem Hicks does play, he's so banged up that he's not going to play much. So I don't know. The defense is going to be really suspect. And if the offense is going to pass the ball over the place and not run it, we're not going to survive.
What I will say with the 49ers that, it scares me. Yes, their injuries have stacked up like recent years. Really, it's funny because 2019 is kind of like the anomaly year for them in terms of like everyone stayed healthy. We got through the year. But the status quo in the Kyle Shanahan era has been key players injured and on the sidelines for most of the season, it seems. But anyway, that being said, one thing that's consistent with Kyle Shanahan that I love about him is that his teams come and they are disciplined and they generally execute well. Even if they are an under-talented team, they generally execute and they claw till the end. Chicago this year's had 2 duds and has not made me confident in losses. Not saying that's like a good, metric, if you will, on like how I think this game will go. But 49ers don't quit, man. Like they play in a tough division. They have a coach that I would say has instilled a culture that at least says you better execute on the mechanics of the game that matter the most. And that's what really scares me is like the Bears at times I see lapses where I'm like, this to me is a team that doesn't do everything right and is bound to mess something up eventually. San Francisco, it's just that they're undermanned and have been kind of, they've kind of just been like out at the end of games. They eventually fall off is what happens this year. They're in every game this season, even at 2-4. So like that scares me. They're able to keep up. Chicago doesn't make me say, oh yeah, they're going to keep up here. That's why I think in the end, like you're going to see San Fran be 3-4.
Yeah, the Bears aren't a team. Oh, they're down 14 or 20. They're going to come back. And like that horrible game with the 49ers and Colts with the torrential downpour. But but like you said, they stay close. They're playing with second stringers and third stringers. So eventually in the third or fourth quarter, the other team's starters take over. And if the 49ers were healthy, they might only lose a game or 2. And Jimmy G's not that bad. People think he's this terrible quarterback. He really isn't. He just can't stay healthy.
I mean, there's a point in the offseason we were talking about if they didn't draft Fields, Jimmy Graham could be a trade option for crying out loud. It was slight, but it was there.
I said it. I was like, bring him on over. I mean, Jimmy G's from Chicago. He's from Arlington Heights, where the Bears are going to move to.
Yeah, also that.
He's
Eastern Illinois product too.
I helped out spring ball when he was there. I'm down there. I knew who he was. Watched him
Okay.
play. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not a Tom Brady. He's just a quarterback that's going to do whatever offense you put him in.
Mm-hmm.
At EIU, the first 2 years, they were pro style, I formation, whatever. Baber shows up. They ran the Baylor offense, and he threw for 5,000 some yards his senior year. And it was up tempo, snap the ball every 12 seconds. Then he goes to the NFL and does pretty well in that style.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, if we don't get a quarterback and we focus on the offensive line, trade for Jimmy G. He'll come home. He'll be fine. He'll be like Smoking Jay all over again. Have a decent quarterback.
He looks better than Smoking Jay, at least, if it's worth anything.
He'll sell
tickets and merchandise.
They'll make money. But I agree. Unless it torrential downpours again on Sunday, the 49ers might squeak this out.
Yeah, it'll be a defensive contest like you're talking. I'm predicting that one off the bat like you. I don't see there's no fireworks. This will be like, I think it'll actually be borderline boring if I'm being honest. But yeah, the 49ers I think still have a little bit more. And again, I think Shanahan's a better coach anyway, and he's proven that over the years that like even with injuries or being undermanned, their teams don't quit under his tenure. That's just how it is. Like they fight for their guy and they execute in places that matters. Tackling and defensive mechanics, especially, they do well. I'm just saying. I see this going, squeak out a game, but it's going to be another knock on, the Nagy pace era. And we're going to be talking more about, trying to be having that as the first coach fired mid-season in Bears history, which I don't think will happen either, but, people will still talk about it.
I don't think it'll happen either. I guess my last thought for this game was Justin Fields was struggling big time against the Bucs. And I know it's the offensive line, and people want to blame the entire offensive line. And I said, no, it goes both ways. Offensive line struggled, but Justin Fields struggled.
Right.
There was a point where I said, why don't we just put Andy Dalton in and just see? Justin Fields had enough because he threw 3 interceptions. He's sitting on the bench with his back looking up at the sky because he hasn't done this before. Mm-hmm. That the rookie that you don't want to break, just put Andy Dalton in. So if Justin Fields plays like that again, are they going to put Andy Dalton in? Not to start, but just say you're going to finish the game, and then we're going to see.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to it if, the guy can process things better, and if that's fine, but just like, I think that would be so hard to, you'd be going back to like being berated. Like it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't thing. Like put in Justin Fields, sure, it appeases like the crowd of the mob for a little bit, but like then they get pissed off because, well, the obvious happens where he can't process and the line breaks down because the line wasn't built well over the last few years. Or we'll put in Andy Dalton, who people will ask, well, if the line couldn't protect him against a mobile QB, how does it help with this? And then also because Andy Dalton, being in place of their starling Justin Fields, and it's a mess either way. Now Dalton, maybe he can read the field faster, which I say is possible because he's, dude is an ex-Pro Bowler and also led a Cincinnati Bengals unit that, he was putting up some good numbers at the time. I mean, that's the thing, but there's other elements at play where I'm like, it still keeps him off the field is what's going to happen. And I think we're stuck in this, it'll be just kind of consistent fit, trying to fine tune as the year goes on with like no result unless, magic happens and, maybe Zoom meetings with receivers changes everything. Like Fields is talking about, I don't know, maybe it could, but like, I'm not like reading that as like the magic bullet. Like, oh, that's going to change it. That the chemistry's there. We're going to hop on a Zoom meeting like 2 times a week. That'll fix it all along with practice.
Trust me, I've done Zoom meetings with football players. And it's not the same.
I mean, I just don't think, that's kind of my vibe. I'm like, cool, great, like media piece. That doesn't make me think that's going to help anything beyond like talking on like stuff that you're critiquing that you could talk about after you do stuff on a practice field. So I
Well,
don't know.
well, that's all I got. I think we're both in consensus that it'll be a low scoring game. So if you're
Yeah.
betting, probably take the under. I don't know what it is. Probably need to take the under.
I'd take the under, and I also am not. I can't tell you right at the moment, but like, yeah, just underneath anything that they're given. Like, I'm gonna go with the under myself if I was a betting guy.
Oh, right now the over under is 39.5 on ESPN.
Ooh, well, no, I'd still go with an under because I'm predicting like 2013 San Francisco. That's what I predicted yesterday when I was on a different show. And I'm going to stick with that gun there. 1 touchdown difference. That's what I got.
I agree. That's not going to happen until the second half. I predict the first half's going to be like 0-7 or 7-7. Yeah, or 10-7, something like that.
7-3. There you go. It'll be that.
It'll be like a 7-3 game. The 49ers will probably squeak it out. Because I think more than just Matt Nagy's out of the building. I think with COVID, I think I saw that.
Yeah, they're having kind of a tear of it through the building right now.
I don't know why.
I don't know. I mean, that they've been critiqued about that as well. Where it's like, how does this keep happening? Because this was the thing last year that happened too. Was like they couldn't get things under wraps, and now it's happening again, and they can't get it under wraps, and it's affecting the roster at the time where mid-season where you shouldn't be having this happen at the moment.
Can't afford to have it happen.
You can't at all afford to have this happen right now.
Well, I think that's all I had. Any final thoughts for the Bears? I can't think of one going.
I have a funny little kind of anecdote just from watching things, and I'll leave it at this. Kind of revisiting our Fields conversation, throwing him into the fire, and how kind of national media want that. So Rich Eisen, love Rich Eisen to death. The Rich Eisen show is great. I like watching clips of it. He was a pro Fields guy. For those that don't know or want to remember, Rich Eisen is a New York Jets fan, advocating that you should put a quarterback in and throw him into the fire automatically. Now, I don't know about you, but the guy just watched Sam Darnold get wrecked. He's watched Geno Smith's career get basically chopped up in a similar fashion. And this guy's coming out and telling people, yeah, just throw Justin Fields out there. That and he said as well on the same take, I believe in putting QBs in and getting them on field experience. Okay, fine. But I also think that gets discredited when you also have watched that kind of concept not work entirely. I'm just saying, I think that there's belief in the sit and be the apprentice type of mentality. I think it works under the right circumstances. Maybe it wouldn't have under Matt Nagy, but like, given the fact that there are instances where this is the case, like, one of the best cases is Aaron Rodgers, by the way, chilling behind Brett Favre. Whether you want to argue that didn't matter or not, I don't care. Dude sat there for over 2 years and all of a sudden became a star after one bad season. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. And then if you want me to be honest, Alex Smith and Andy Dalton are kind of similar veins of talent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Pro Bowl-esque. We're solid players, could produce when needed, and we're good role models, it looks like, too. I wanted that. You all wanted to throw them on the field. Welcome to my world, baby. Insanity. This is what we've gotten now. There's no turning back because you guys wanted this. This is where we're at. Congratulations, people.
And this is why we drink after a Bears game.
Where's my old style? All I got right now is this icy light that I picked up in Pittsburgh, which it doesn't fit the bill as well. The Steelers fans drink this, by the way. Just as a heads up. Old style's better. I'm just going to put it out there right now. It is better.
That's why they're Pittsburgh and this is Chicagoland.
My God.
But at least they know how to play a quarterback.
Yes, fair enough. God damn, you are right.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on to talk about the Bears. We'll try to get you back on more often for the Bears.
Oh, I'll be back, Coach. I'm ready. put me in any time.
It'll be your 11th appearance for a podcast a week because you got 10 of them going on.
Right. I got so many. How I juggle this schedule is beyond my own understanding. I don't know how I do it.
It's to hide the pain of being a Bears fan.
That's what the laughs are. This is my insanity of me doing this all the time to myself.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll get you back on again sometime. To Bears victory or Bears tears, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. We'll be talking it in the DMs, man. Good.
Absolutely. Thanks
for having me on, Steve.
I hope you enjoyed that preview for the Chicago Bears versus the 49ers that I had with Zach Keilman. Make sure you go check out all the podcasts he's on. The main one is the Gridiron Gallery, but if you go to bellyupsportspodcast.com, you'll have all the podcasts there. If you go to his Gridiron Gallery Facebook page, Twitter page, go to his link tree, has all the different stuff he's on. Go check out all that stuff. Really enjoyed that preview with him. He's going to be coming back on for other Chicago Bears, either previews or recaps or sadnesses. Maybe we'll talk why Jay Cutler is the best Chicago Bears quarterback that ever lived, but that's neither here or there. Thank you guys so much for listening to that. Now we're going to dive in real quick to my NFL Week 8 picks. We're going to go through every one. This is going to come out after the Thursday night game with Green Bay and Arizona. But I did have Green Bay winning that game, but it was a closer game than I thought it was going to be. So we're going to move on. Carolina versus Atlanta. Carolina is very injured prone. They're not playing as well as they were. I think Atlanta is due for wins. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons. Buffalo's coming off their bye week versus a struggling Miami team. You got to go with Buffalo. I think that's a no-brainer. From the preview, me and Kyle kind of on the same page that we think the 49ers are going to squeak one out against the Bears. It's going to be a close game. Pittsburgh is coming in against an injured Cleveland team with Baker Mayfield, but he is cleared to play. But with him not getting reps for the past couple weeks, I think Pittsburgh might start to turn a corner, so I got to go with Pittsburgh over the Browns, but it's going to be a very close game. I've bet on Detroit a few times. They're playing Philadelphia. Both teams are slowly struggling. I think MCDC gets a win, so I'm going to go with Detroit. Tennessee plays Indianapolis Colts. Tennessee has been on fire, so I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals has been a quote-unquote surprise team to me overall, not Joe Burrow, but just the overall team playing the New York Jets. Well, they're New York Jets, so I got to go with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Los Angeles Rams will go play Houston. I don't think this is a no-brainer. You got to go with the Rams. Chargers coming off a bye week hosting New England. New England coming off a big win last week. I think the Chargers coming off a bye week are going to be able to have fresh legs against New England. So I'm going to go with the Chargers. Seattle is struggling against Jacksonville, but I just can't pick Jacksonville. I have to go with Seattle. I'd have to hope that Jacksonville or Seattle's coaching and the kind of talent they have will prevail over Jacksonville. Washington football team will travel to Denver. I think Denver's defense is going to be too much. So I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. Tampa Bay Bucks travel to New Orleans. I think Tampa Bay is just way better than New Orleans right now. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. Dallas Cowboys go to Minnesota. Dak Prescott is a game-time decision. I have to believe that Dallas's defense is going to step up. Their offense is they have different weapons that help them move the ball. So I'm going to go with Dallas over Minnesota. And the New York Giants, who are hit or miss. 1 week they're really good, 1 week they're not, against a strongest Kansas City team. I just can't see New York Giants winning over Kansas City. So I'm going to go with Kansas City. The bet you need to make, Buffalo versus the Dolphins. I have to think that's going to go over 48.5. Titans versus the Colts. I believe it's going to be a low-scoring game. It'll be under 51. You got to take the Rams minus 15.5. You got to take the Bengals minus 11.5. And I think Pittsburgh versus the Browns. I think they have Pitt +4. I think you got to take that with the way Cleveland's playing and with the injured quarterback. Pittsburgh +4. All right, guys, there's my Week 8 picks, my bets. Thank you so much for listening to the preview. It's been fun. That was fun with Zach Keilman. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Now stay tuned as we move forward on our Sunday Bellyup pregame. Stay tuned for it. Coming up with Zach Keilman. You're going to hear him again, him and the crew on that show for 4th and 4. It is coming up next, so stay tuned.